Are you ready to transform your ordinary room into a professional-grade home studio for creating dynamic content on YouTube, Instagram Reels, or TikTok? Even if you're not a gear expert, in this course, I'll teach you everything you need to know about setting up a DIY home studio in any space you have, including how to choose and use various types of equipment like cameras, microphones, lighting, and even with your phone. How to design and arrange your space to make the most of what you have. Tips on achieving the best audio and visual quality. How to add personal touches to make your studio uniquely yours. And also how to adapt your setup to different types of video content, whether you're shooting horizontally for YouTube or vertically for TikTok and Instagram Reels. I'm Simone, a professional content creator with over 1.1 million followers across social media platforms. And despite my experience with high-end studios, I often set up DIY studios in various living spaces due to my semi-nomadic lifestyle. This has equipped me with a lot of practical insights into maximizing small spaces for big impacts. And that's why I'm excited to share with you my practical tips and easy setup techniques for home studios. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to enhance your current space, no matter how small that is, this course is designed to empower you to create a functional and visually appealing home studio. So, are you ready to start transforming your space into a dynamic studio for your business, personal brand, or creative projects? If your answer is yes, I'll see you in the first video. One of the first questions that you may ask is, what do I need actually to create a studio setup at home? What kind of camera I need? What kind of lighting? What about the background? How does it all work? It's really important to understand that in order to create a great studio, you don't have to have fancy equipment, amazing gear, and like loads of different stuff that you buy from expensive websites. Not at all. We can just create studios directly in our bedroom, in our small space with things that we have in the house, and even just using a phone. The first thing that we need, obviously, is recording equipment. So whether we talk about cameras or whether we talk about phone, you need something to take videos on. Obviously, if you're shooting with your phone, you don't have any choice regarding the lens that you can use because you just put your camera. I suggest you use the 1X camera, whether you're using iPhone or Android, because usually that's the highest quality. And then you'll just need to point towards you, and then you need to make sure that the background looks good. In case you want to go for a camera, then you have so many different options depending on the budget. For example, right now, I have a Sony a7 III right here, which I think is one of the best quality overpriced camera that you can find right now on the market. And then on top, you can have a different lens. The best option at the beginning is going for a zoom lens, which means that you can zoom in or out depending on the lens that you have. This one is a 16 to 35. 16 is super wide angle. 35 is obviously less wide, but still kind of wide. Right now, I'm filming on the camera there, which is a Sony a7 IV, and I have a 50mm fixed lens. The difference between a fixed focal length and a zoom lens is that usually fixed focal length, they can go to a lower aperture, like f1.2, whereas this one goes to f2.8. And the difference between f1.2 and f2.8 is that f1.2 has a very shallow depth of field. As you can see right now, I'm in focus, but then now this camera is autofocus because it's closer there, and also the background is autofocus. As soon as you go higher with the aperture, let's say 2.8, 5.6, so on and so forth, everything will be in focus, so you don't have a shallow depth of field. Usually, whenever you can go very low with aperture, like this one, f1.2, becomes extremely expensive. But you can find some great deals, for example, the 50mm f1.8, which is also called the Nifty 50, because it's the classic lens that everyone uses because you can go very low with the aperture, but the price is super, super reasonable. No matter whether you're using Sony, Canon, Nikon, they all have the Nifty 50 lens. But again, this is very restrictive, so if you want to change your framing, you'll have to move the camera itself and you cannot play around with the lens. In terms of our studio setup, if you have a wide lens, you probably have to be closer to the camera. Whereas if you have a long lens like the 50mm, now I have it at about maybe 1.5 meters from me. Whereas if I'm using a very wide lens like a 60mm, then the camera will be probably right here in order to kind of fill up the space with my body like you see right now. So the difference is that if you have a wide lens, you'll have to stay closer to the lens and you won't be able to separate yourself from the background that much. Whereas if you have a longer lens, you'll require more space because the camera has to be further away from you, but then at the same time, you'll be able to separate yourself from the background a little bit more. Once again, the camera choice and the lens choice doesn't really matter. You can always find an alternative and adjust your studio based on the gear that you have. And I'm gonna show you also in this class on how you can achieve a great result even just using your phone. Then obviously, if you are alone, you have to use a tripod in order to hold your camera. You can use any tripod that is on Amazon. There are some very, very cheap ones. There are plastic ones. Be careful if your camera is heavy. I suggest you go at least for an aluminum sort of tripod, but there's not really a choice here because there are thousands and thousands of tripods. Whatever you buy is okay. Just make sure maybe that if you can, that is not plastic, because the plastic one can work for a few times, but it's easy to break and you don't want to break your camera. If you're using your phone, any tripod will work. There's no problem because phones are very light. Now let's talk about the most important element of them all. This is about lighting. Now, if we put on a scale on how much lighting will change your setup from 1 to 10, I would say is 10 out of 10. Because lighting is the most important element of them all. It's more important than the camera or the phone that you're using. And even if you don't want to invest too much money in lighting, I suggest you buy some sort of artificial light that is made for photography or videography. And you can find them extremely cheap. I think starting from $40 on Amazon, you can find them anywhere in the world, and they're just simple softbox. So you don't want to have a direct light, but you want to have a softbox. A softbox is basically a diffuser for the light that will create very soft shadows that will look extremely professional. Right now, let me show it to you. I have a Nanlite Forza 60B, which is a very small light attached on a softbox. So this is the softbox that I have, which is quite small. There are also huge softboxes. If you want to have it bigger, the bigger the better, but because I travel a lot, I need to have a small one. And this one, you can even fold it so that I can travel with this one. And then as you can see, the light attached to it is extremely small. And this is my key light. Once again, you can go with any option that you want. If you want to go with a cheap Amazon softbox, that's not a problem at all. But still, I strongly suggest you buy some sort of lighting. Otherwise, some alternatives could be the Nanlite Forza 60, which again is 60 watt, or the Godox SL60, if I'm not mistaken, or there are also some other ones. It's really important that I think as a minimum you should have 60 watts like this one, and with this one you'll be able to do whatever you want, and I use it everywhere I go. And here where I am right now, I only have this light with me as a key light. I don't have anything bigger than this. Then also we'll need some extra lights to then light up the background, and this could be also some bed lamps like this one that I had already in my apartment that I didn't buy. Or you can buy some pocket lights like this one that you see. This is a Nanlite Littelite 5C. This is super small, and it allows you to change any color, because as we're going to see in the lighting section, we'll be able to change different combinations to make our background more interesting. I have also another big light, not with me, but is a Nanlite Forza 200, which you can use for so many different things because it's just huge. But for home setups, I highly suggest you don't go too big because there's no need. This light is the cheapest one that you can find and is super small and allows for great visuals. As we are going to see, we need to turn off every single light that we have from our bedroom, from our living, wherever you are, and we're just gonna play around with artificial lights, placing them wherever we want them to be. The next thing that we'll need is gonna be a microphone, because obviously you don't want to record with the internal recorder of your phone or of the camera because they're very bad, but you can buy some cheap microphones. And here you're gonna have two options. Either you go with a wireless option like I'm using right now here, so I have a receiver on top of my camera and then I'm speaking and into this microphone, or you're gonna have a shotgun mic which will have to be linked to the camera. But again, we're gonna have a look at this in the audio consideration video. Then if you wanna make your background more interesting, we might need any combinations of light, so bed lamps, or maybe even that light, which is another similar to the one that I have right here, but just without the softbox. Then we have plants, tables, unit shelves, or any sort of furniture that you want to use in your background, a chair obviously where you need to sit, maybe a table in front of you if you want to, and also some paper wall like this one that I have right here, and I'm gonna show it to you later, or some other thing that you want to attach to the wall in case you don't want to use the plain wall. And that's it. Obviously, if you want to stay extremely low budget, you can do that too. For example, in this case, I just have my camera and I have a small cheap light in front of me, and then I have a bed lamp right here. I could do without that one, but because I have it, I'm gonna use it. And also this plant and some cheap accessories right there. So in total, this setup, excluding the light, which probably is, I think, $250, $300, then this setup is probably gonna be like, I don't know, $50 or so. But now keep going with the class, because you're probably gonna understand throughout the overall course how and what kind of elements you want to use in your setup. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Now it's time to go into practice and understand how we can build a studio in our bedroom or in our small space. And I'm gonna start with an example right here from my bedroom, which has also been my studio for the past 8 months here in Dubai. Usually I move quite a bit, I travel a lot, I change bedroom, I change apartment. I think I did it maybe 7 or 8 times in the last 4 years, and every time I move I need to build a new studio for my content. And one of the big challenges is to find the right spot in a certain room so that I can set up my studio without having to move the lights, the camera and all the equipment every single time. And that's why this first practical lesson is about reading the room, understanding where we should set up our own camera, lighting and background. There are 2 ways on how you can try to read your room. The first one is try to find a plain area, so without anything that you can build up with certain elements that we're gonna see throughout this class. The second one is try to find elements that are already in your room, in your house, in your living room, and then try to use them to create an interesting setup for your own content. In this bedroom, I had to start completely from zero because there were no elements that I liked that I wanted to use. And therefore, I tried to find a plain white wall, and then I built it up with some elements that I'm gonna show you right now. The goal is to find an area of your room where you can have, let's say, at least 2 meters by 1.5. My space right here is 3 meters long by 1.5 meters. And that's enough to build an area that is both for horizontal and vertical content, because that's another very important element that you want to consider. Do you want to shoot only vertical content, or do you want to shoot also horizontal content? Obviously, for horizontal content, you need probably a little bit of a wider background, whereas for vertical, you probably need a smaller section, obviously. But my goal, because I don't want to move setup and change from vertical to horizontal, is try to have one for both. But even here, despite being pretty small, it works for both. Another super important factor whenever you're thinking to build a setup in your space is that you should be able to block out any natural lighting coming in. So even in this case, you see now that there is a window, but then I have blackout curtains so that I can close it up and then I don't have any natural light coming in. The reason why you want this is because whenever you have natural light coming in, throughout your recording period, the light is gonna change because the sun moves around. And even if you don't see it because you're super slow in your content, whenever you're editing your videos, you're gonna see it. And that's not something that you wanna take care of doing the editing because it's a huge pain. Now, I understand that you may want to set up your own content space where you don't have the possibility to have it pitch black. And later on in the course, I'm gonna show you a way on how you can improve it. But keep in mind that usually if you want to edit your videos and then put together all the pieces, you're gonna probably see a difference in exposure whenever you're doing these cuts. All right, let me show you why I decided to set up my content area right there. So this is my bedroom, and I just wanted to find the space where I had the most depth. And probably from here until here, it was the biggest space I could have. As you can see, it's about 3 meters long and is about 1.5 meters wide. Whenever you're setting up your space, you want to try to have the camera as far as possible from the background, and then probably you're going to sit around the middle. This depends on the lens that you have on your camera, whether you're shooting on your phone. If you have a wide lens, you're probably going to be closer to the camera, whereas if you have a long lens, a zoom lens, let's say higher than 35 millimeters, then you'll have to stay further away from the camera. This is totally up to you depending on the gear that you have, the room that you have, and also the effect that you want to achieve. My personal favorite is try to use 35 or 50 millimeter with a lower f-stop, lower aperture, which means that I'm gonna have a shallower depth of field. So I'm gonna be in focus, but the background is not gonna be in focus. Now that I identify this space as my set, I need to understand exactly where to put the camera, and we decided to put it as far as we can from the background. Then I'm gonna have the background, and this is gonna be in the next video, and then I just need to position myself. Once again, I'm gonna have a starting position in the middle, but then we can move depending on the lens that you have, a little bit closer to the background or a little bit closer to the lens. If you have a wider lens, you have to be closer to the lens. If you have a long lens, 50 millimeters or higher, then you have to be closer to the background, or let's say further away from the camera. And now it's time to set up our background. The key that you need to think about whenever you're setting up your background is balance. Especially when you are in small room, in small spaces like this one, you don't want to have a cluttered background with too many elements, because this is going to distract the viewer. Remember, the focus of the attention whenever you're creating content is you. You don't want the viewer to be distracted by the background. And that's why we need to find balance between the elements in the background and yourself. Now, there are a few key elements whenever we speak about the background. The first one is the wall. And in order to treat the wall, you have several options. The first one is that you just leave it blank, and maybe we're gonna use pieces of furniture, lights, plants to try to cover and making it interesting. Or what I've done here is that I bought some non-destructive paper wall to then attach it to the wall. And then whenever I'm gonna leave this apartment, I'm just gonna take it out, and if needed, I'll just gonna repaint it. So now, after 8 months of using this studio on and off, I need to remove the paper wall because I'm leaving this apartment. So now we're gonna find out together whether this solution was non-destructive for real, or whether it left any mark on the wall. So let's find out. All right, first part gone. There's absolutely no marks, which makes me extremely happy because that means I don't have to repaint it on top. All right, let's keep going with the remaining. Yoo-hoo! That was a success. For this paper wall, I decided to go for a black wood texture, which I really like, and I think it looks amazing when doing videos. But then depending on your style, depending on the effect that you want to achieve, I definitely suggest you try to check out what kind of paper wall you can find in your area. It is not expensive, it's quite easy to apply. I think we applied this one in 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. And then is ready to go. Now, it is not amazing to see this black patch in my bedroom comparing to everything else that is white, because I didn't want to do the full wall, because it would have taken much longer and would have been much more tedious to then remove when we are living. But this is a choice that you can make, whether you want to just set up your own corner for content, you want to just do the whole wall and then make it pretty so that whenever you go to sleep, you're going to have a nice bedroom. For me, this is not a problem to have in my bedroom. It's totally fine, but again, it is up to you. Because I really like the dark texture and the dark color, the dramatic vibes, I decided to go with a very dark one. But depending on your niche, you might want to choose something different. If you are a girl and you're doing some paint content, or maybe you're doing some makeup content, surely don't go for the black one, because that's not the mood you want to go for. So try to match the paper wall that you're gonna buy with the mood that you want to go for in your content. And then whenever you have decided your background, whether you want to use a plain wall or a paper wall or something else, it's all about adding elements that will make your frame more interesting. And when talking about elements, there are 3 key things that I like to have in my backgrounds. The first one are lights, then plants, and then furniture, which can include cabinet with shelves or tables like this one, or any other drawer that comes in your mind. Especially lights are super important because those will be able to increase the depth of your frame. I see so many content creators that have a beautiful background but is completely turned off. There are no lights, and that is just missing out quite a bit, because if you could just add one more light in the background, you'll be able to increase quite easily the depth of your frame. Because whenever you're creating content, there are always 2 layers: the background and you. For example, look at this framing right now. Yes, I have the white wall because I'm not zoomed in enough. I don't have the right lens to record content right now because I'm doing just a class. But then look at what happens when I turn on that light right here. We have a simple light turned on in the background, but now it's illuminating the background and it creates much more depth. The same thing if I add that light over there. There you go. And now it's already starting to have some sort of great shape. So if I now zoom in with my lens, if I change lens on my camera, you'll be able to see that I have one light on the left, one light on the right, and it looks already amazing. Then the last step that I want to do is that maybe I want to add a plant. And this one, I can leave that plant that I have right there in this side, but I can also put it on the other side. I think I'm going to put it on the other side because I like it a little bit more whenever I'm shooting horizontal. So I just have this plant right here. As you can see, this is probably like 60 centimeter plant. It's not too big, it's not too small. I think works perfectly in this setup. So I'm gonna place it just right here. There you go. And then maybe I can point this light towards the plant so that we see it a little bit more. And now it looks already much better. If I zoom in with my lens, let's see if we can make it happen. There you go. Just gonna move the camera a bit. And there you go. As you can see, now this looks already pretty good, which is definitely quite wide. Usually I use a longer lens, like a 50mm, so that I can have the camera a little bit further away from me. I can have a lower aperture, which means that I have a shallower depth of field. So I'm gonna be in focus and the background is not gonna be in focus. Now, let me show you one more thing that you can add to this background to make it even more interesting. And this is by adding a backlight. There you go. This is a pocket light. In this case, I'm using a Nanlite Littelite 5C, which is a very small light that can change any color, can become purple, blue, red, green, whatever you want, but I'm gonna use it just yellow. Reason being is because I'm using a white key light in front of me, and then I wanna contrast it with a complementary yellow, warm white on the opposite side. I placed it on a tripod so that it can be a little bit higher, just like so. Here, I want to have it out of frame because I don't want to see it in the frame. But then let's see if we can make it happen. There you go. And now I'm going to zoom back in again. And there you go. You see this yellow reflection on this side. That's the backlight, and it adds so much depth because it really separates me from the background. In addition, it also simulates as this light right here, this bed lamp that you see right here, is almost like it's the one that is hitting me on this side. But actually it's not true, because if I turn the pocket light off, you see that it's not doing anything, that light, because it's too weak, it's not powerful enough. But then when I turn it back on, boom, you can see that it really makes a huge difference. Now, I want to show you the difference from a 35mm, which I'm using right now, to now a 50mm. So this is the 35, and this instead is the 50mm. As you can see, the background now is a little bit more blurred than it used to be with the 35. I love this lens so much because it goes down to f1.2, which means I have a very shallow depth of field. So now I'm in focus and the background is autofocus. This is a very expensive lens and it's not a must-have. You can do with any lens that you have. It's all about adjusting the position of the camera and trying to be as far as you can from the background, so that even if you have a higher f-stop like f2.8 like we had before, or f3.5 or 5.6, then you try to have as shallow depth of field as you can. And now I want to show you that the same setup works also with the phone. Now keep in mind that when I made this one for the camera, so it's not super perfect because the phone, especially the front camera, has a wider camera, then I would have had to have more paper wall on the wall, but I want to show you that it works anyway. Now let's use this Teleport Sport to hold my phone, and now I'm gonna just try to find a position where I don't see the white wall but I just see that black texture. So probably it's gonna be close to here. Let's see if we can make it happen. There you go. And now, as you can see, it doesn't look bad at all. If it's too bright, I can decrease my key light power, or I can also tap on my face and just decrease a tiny bit the exposure, like so. And now I'm ready to start speaking and create content directly with my phone. As you can see, my phone is super close to my face and we're very close to the background. The reason being is because not big enough, the black patch. Whereas when we use a long lens like a 50mm, then that will compress the background and therefore we don't need such a big space in the background. But with the phone, this is what looks best. So as you can see, the position of the camera, it really depends on the lens that you have on the camera and on your background. If you have a very wide background that takes up a lot of space, then you can use that space at your advantage. But if, like me, you have just a small patch, then you're a little bit more restricted in this case. But later on in the class, I'm going to show you with a bigger living room, with a bigger space, on how you can manage all the different elements. Now let's move away the phone right now, because it's time to talk about lighting. Lighting is probably the most important element in your setup. It doesn't matter about a fancy camera or a phone. It doesn't matter about the lens that you have and everything else. It's all about lighting. If you can manage the light properly, if you can understand how to position yourself and how to position the light, you're gonna have an amazing setup all the time. It's guaranteed. To start off, I wanna show you the difference from using an artificial light like the Nanlite 60B that I'm using right now as a key light, and also the backlight with the light that I have in my bedroom. Let's switch them off. This looks pretty bad, isn't it? I just turned off my key light, the two backlights, even the small pocket light, and I just turned on my bedroom light. That's why I highly suggest you turn off everything and you just use artificial light. Now let me open the window to see the difference, because now it's off. I closed the curtain. Let me open them. Okay, that's already a little bit better than before, but the problem is that the window's coming from the side and not from 45 degrees in front, as it should be to have an amazing lighting. But as you can see, there's not even to compare from having a controlled artificial lighting like the Nanlite 60B or any other sort of lighting like a softbox that you can find on Amazon. It makes a huge difference. Let me show you that by turning on the backlights, we already have a massive difference from just using one single window light. This is not bad, of course, if you don't have a key light, but I think our situation before was a little bit better. So let's go back to it. And that's it, much better. Now I want to show you how you can position your key light in different positions to obtain a different result. The first one, which is the one that we have right now, is the classic one, is the one that most people use because it's used a lot in cinema as well, is when you have your key light 45 degrees towards you, a little bit higher than your eye lens. And the goal here is try to have a triangle on this side of the cheek. And that's what makes it very cinematic. It's called Rembrandt light. It's widely used. You can even Google it. You can try to find loads of different examples of movies that used it. But then depending on the position of the light, you can achieve different results. For example, if I want to have a more dramatic scene, I just need to move my light a little bit more on the side. Let me show it to you. I'm just gonna grab it and then I'm gonna move it towards the side, just like that. Now, because I put it closer to myself, it's gonna be brighter on me, and therefore I need to reduce the intensity of this light. I have an app that allows me to control the lighting, so I'm just gonna reduce it. And this is more dramatic because I have this side very bright and this side much darker. But then this pocket light helps me a lot brightening up this area. If I turn it off, it's gonna be even more dramatic because this side is super dark. So I'm gonna turn it back on. There you go, and I really like this setup. As you can see, my light is not on the same level of my eye line, but is higher on me. And that's also a key element whenever you position the light. If you have it completely flat, you're gonna have a flat face, you're not gonna have any shadows on your face, and it's not gonna make it interesting, it's not gonna make it cinematic. So let's try to have it a little bit higher than our eye line. Now, one more thing that I want to show you when positioning the light is what happens when you actually have it basically right in front of you. So we're going to position the light right in front of me, just like here, and we're going to have to increase a bit the height, and boom. Now we have it right on top of us, and I really like this framing as well. We have this side a little bit darker because it's maybe just switch on the side, just like that. In case you want to have it completely even, then you should have a C-stand, because now it's a little bit positioned towards my left, because otherwise it would enter the frame. So when you have a C-stand, it's basically doing this right on top of you. Now let's go back to our original position, where I'm gonna have it slightly higher than my eye line on the side. There you go. I wanna show it to you what happens if you have it too bright. So if I increase the brightness of my light, you can see that I'm basically burning. Here, this is too bright. Now it's not okay anymore. This part has become completely white and I cannot even recover it anymore in post. At the same time, if I turn this one off, you can see that now I'm too dark. I don't stand out anymore from the background, and that's also not fine. So you just need to find a balance. It's all about how it looks good on your eyes, that is not too bright or not too dark. And I think just like here, 60% seems to be all right. Maybe 14, there you go. Even the position of the backlight can change depending on your liking. If I put it more on the side, then it's gonna even out quite a bit. As you can see here, I have my key light, and this side I have the pocket light hitting on my left side of the face, which I don't really like, to be honest. I prefer it to have it like this, so that I have a bright area, shadow, and then the reflection of the backlight. I can even change the color of this one. So if I don't wanna have it yellow, I'm gonna put a different color, let's say blue. And there you go, I set it to teal, and even this one looks great. The reason being is because I decided to go for complementary colors. This one is, let's say, more orange, warm yellow, and then a complementary color is teal. Teal and orange. Have you ever heard about that? Well, you can play around with all the colors that you want. Even if I set it on purple, I think it will look good. Let's try it on. There you go, even this one, it looks amazing. The reason being is because I have a black background, and I think purple and black really look good together, but at the same time, I can play around with colors also in the background. So let's say I don't wanna have this backlight anymore, but I wanna have a colored background as well. Then what I can do is that I can place this one on the background instead of this one, for example, and then let's see what we have. There you go. Or maybe I want to have it just coming from the bottom. Let's see. There you go, I have it from the bottom, and maybe I can switch up with this plant on the other side so that we have it illuminated by the light. Just like that, and that's it. I have it purple and yellow. But again, that is totally up to you. Feel free to play around with all the lighting and all the colors that you want. But it's really important to have one key light, one backlight if you want to have more depth, and especially lights on the background that are lighting up the background. This will create so much depth. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Let's talk about the audio setup. And now I want to show you a few examples so you can decide which one is your favorite and works best for your type of content. Now, the first one, which is what I'm using right now, is a wireless setup. So basically, I have this one right here, which is a magnetic microphone that I attach to my shirt, and then I have a wireless receiver on my camera right now, so that you'll be able to hear me even if I move, and if I go anywhere, I can stand up, I can go in another room, and you're still gonna hear the same quality audio. The one that I'm using right now is by Holinet, and it's called Lark M2, and I really like it because it's super easy to set up. You barely see it, but the audio quality is quite nice. Another wireless alternative, it could be the Rode Wireless Go 2, or the Joby Wavo Air, which I have right here. Even in this case, I'm just gonna position this one attached to the camera, and this is gonna be the receiver. This is gonna be a little bit bulkier than the one that I have right now, but what you can do with this one, which I really like, is that you can attach a lavalier mic. So you just plug this one in, then you're gonna have the little cable coming in from your shirt, and this is the microphone. And this is really handy in case you don't wanna let the people see about this one. It's a little bit more tedious to set up. There is a cable involved. It takes a little bit more time, but again, this could be a great alternative depending on what kind of content you want to create. Then there are also the DJI Mic Wireless, which are awesome. So it's really, there is so much choice that any would work for a wireless setup. I just really like this one because it's super fast and I can also attach it to my phone with just plugging it in, and it's going to be very quick. Another alternative that you have is using a shotgun mic. This is usually used for vlogging. So you put it on top of the camera, and these are the best ones for on the go. But many times I use it to record in studio as well. If I don't need to move and if I don't want to use this one, I prefer to use this one because I know that it's always there. Whereas a problem with using lavalier mics or this is that maybe they can move. If they get out of battery, I don't see it, and so on and so forth. Whereas this one is always there, and I know that is super reliable and even sometimes higher quality than the small ones. But the problem with this one is that it requires a cable, so it's not wireless, and you need to attach it to the camera somehow.